This right here is the third part to our quest for the solution to racism.
If you haven't watched the first 2 parts yet,
what are you waiting for?
Check out the link in the description section down below. In the meantime, brace yourself.
Truth seekers, a nation of soldiers, for the most outstanding war known to mankind. The battle between deception and truth. Can you hear the war drums? ITS-OAN.
In an effort to explain racism and provide solutions for it, we decided to have the world's major belief systems put beneath the spotlight. We done gone through atheism, Buddhism, Hinduism, now here we go with Judaism. For most Jews, sacred texts are of exquisite importance. Today's Jews rely mainly on the Tanakh and Talmud for their religious ordinances and rituals. The Tanakh, also referred to as the Hebrew Bible, is a canonical collection of Hebrew scriptures which are textual sources of the Christian Old Testament. The Talmud, on the other hand, is the central text of Rabbinic Judaism. It is the primary source of Jewish religious laws. Not to get into unnecessary details, let's dive into the Talmud to figure out what it says about non-Jews.
Sanhedrin 58b, verse 20-24.
Rabbi Hananiah said, if a heathen smites a Jew, he is worthy of death, for it is written, and he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian. Rabbi Hananiah also said, he who smites an Israelite on the jaw is as though he had thus assaulted the divine presence, for it is written, one who smitteth man, that is an Israelite, attacketh the Holy One.
Alright, so if you understand this like I do, I guess this verse establishes that if a non-Jew strikes a Jew, he or she is worthy of the death penalty. Well, let's check out what ought to happen when a Jew murders a non-Jew.
Sanhedrin 57a, verse 35.
But where a penalty is incurred, it is explicitly stated, for the commencing clause teaches, for murder, whether of a Scythian by a Scythian, or of an Israelite by a Scythian, punishment is incurred, but of a Scythian by an Israelite, there is no death penalty.
Scythians were members of an ancient Babylonian group which colonized Samaria. With regards to this passage, Scythians are somehow synonymous to non-Jews. Hence, it appears to me that, according to the Talmud, if a Jew happens to murder a non-Jew, he or she is not worthy of the death penalty. If non-Jews are worthy of death in the case that a non-Jew strikes a Jew, but Jews are not worthy of death in the case that a Jew murders a non-Jew, it's apparent that the Talmud seems to imply that the lives of non-Jews are somehow less valuable to Jewish lives. Unfortunately, these are just a few of many Talmudic verses which seem to insinuate that non-Jews are less than human.
Mark, I think you're taking these verses out of context.
Alright, let's let Talmudic Jews expatiate on this.
והגויים לא קרויים אדם, זה מה שכתוב.
אוקיי, אז מה קוראים להם?
אדם זה הדמה לאליהו. אדם הוא בן אדם שהוא שונה מהבהמה.
עכשיו, הגויים מה שהם, כן? אלוקים עשה אותם בשביל שיעשו פה...
בשביל לשרת את היהודים. כל הגויים שאתה רואה שיש בעולם, המיליארדים האלה, הם הכל רק בשביל שיהיה לו...
יהיה לו
אלפים עבדים. 2,800 עבדים.
Is it worth mentioning that radical Judaism favors racial discrimination?
Nope.
Let's move on. Muslims rely on the Quran, Hadiths, and Sunnah for an exhaustive understanding of Islam. The Quran is said to be the revelation of Allah to Muhammad, while the Hadiths and Sunnah are said to be the words, deeds, traditions, and practices of the Prophet Muhammad. Sunan An-Nasai is a collection of hadiths which fall amongst Islam's most reliable sources.
Sunan An-Nasai, Volume 5, Chapter 66, or Sunan An-Nasai, Hadith number 4625 reads,
selling animals for animals of different amounts or quality, hand to hand. It was narrated that Jabi said, a slave came and gave his pledge to the messenger of Allah to emigrate, and the Prophet did not know he was a slave. Then his master came looking for him. The Prophet said, sell him to me. So he bought him for 2 black slaves. Then he did not accept the pledge of anyone after that, until he had asked, is he a slave?
Well, there is a lot to learn from this passage, the most obvious being that Islamic scholars consider slave trade to be identical to trading animals.
In other words, they perceive slaves as animals.
Julia, Don't be so blunt.
Oops.
Anyway, the heading to this chapter reads,
Selling animals for animals of different amounts or quality, hand to hand.
From the heading, one would expect the passage to concern some sort of barter trading which goes like,
I will take your donkey and give you my camel.
However, that's obviously not the case. More to that, the passage implicitly makes it clear that the Messenger of Allah, the Prophet Muhammad, owned and traded slaves. Above all, the hadith indirectly suggests that, according to Muhammad, black slaves were just half the value of non-black slaves. This explains why the Prophet chose to trade 2 black slaves for 1 Arab slave. With that in mind, one is tempted to think that the slave trading and slavery we have in countries such as Libya is the effect of Muslims trying to toe the lines of the Messenger of Allah.
African migrants passing through Libya are being sold as slaves.
These men are sold for 1,200 Libyan pounds.
Slavery is existing in Libya every day and night. They sell people just like the way they sell goats.
We'll like to end this video with a quote from Joel Nathan's book, Moon-o-Theism. Volume 1, page 504. He wrote,
It is too bad that the niggas did not know that Muhammad referred to Ethiopians as raisin heads. Also, Muhammad identified the pagan Arabian Venus, whom the Muslim Khalid supposedly killed with a sword, as a black woman entirely naked, with long and wildly flowing hair. Furthermore, Muhammad interpreted a black woman in a dream to be a disease carrier, as Bukhari wrote. The Prophet said, I saw, in a dream, a black woman with unkempt hair going out of Medina and settling at Mahay. I interpreted that as a symbol of epidemic of Medina being transferred to that place. Muhammad said that those who were saved would have white faces, and those who were damned would have black faces. Ibn Ishaq said that Muhammad said, whoever wants to see Satan, let him take a look at Nabtal al-Harith. He was a sturdy black man. Tellingly, the Arabic word for blacks, abed, is a derivation
Terrorize
of the
that
word
comment
slave.
section with your opinions on this matter. If you dig in this content, here's what you gotta do.
push that thumbs up button and share with your friends and family.
Why?
Cause we out here inspiring truth seekers. Subscribe and be a part of the online apologetic nation.
Don't forget to hit that notification bell button and make sure it's on.